Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and again thank you for all my subscribers and thank you for all my new subscribers. I'm so excited about all of you coming back and watching this video. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and press that subscribe button down below. It's that red button, and join in on the fun. Join in, come back and keep watching, and yeah, just come on back. Today I am doing my top 5 thriller recommendations for you. Some of these books are a little older that I've had on my bookshelf for a while, but I've kept them on my bookshelf, so that means that they are, for one, good. They made me think. They also kept me on the edge of my seat, and they're just really good books. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into it. Alright, the first book I'm going to talk about is Broken Monsters, and this is by far one of my favorite books of all times. I love this book, and this is by Lauren Bukes. I recently just raved about The Shining Girls by Lauren Bukes. This was one of my books that I read in, was it my April wrap-up? Something like that. Anyways, but I love this book. It's a thriller, but it is a detective story. I absolutely love detective stories. I watch all kinds of true crime documentaries. I watch things about serial killers in this book. I just love that kind of stuff. I will literally sit up all night and watch just nothing but crime documentaries. And people that do the crime YouTube thing, love them. My favorite crime YouTubers are Stephanie Harlow or Savannah Brimer. I also love Danielle Hallen, Bella Fiore. Those are my 4 YouTubers that I love to watch their true crime videos, and I will link them down below if you've never watched their channels before, because they are great. Anyways, going back to this. This book follows a detective named Gabrielle Rosado, and she has been a detective for a long time. But this one case, she comes up upon a boy has been murdered, and he has been fused together with a deer. So he's half boy, half deer. And this is just, for one, it's weird. 2, it's very gruesome. And 3, the boy is also about the same age as her teenage daughter. So this really, like, it troubles her. So we follow her. We also follow her daughter Layla, who is just a geeky nerd teen, and she has recently found this chat room online, and she starts chatting with somebody who is portraying themselves as a teenage boy, and she ends up really falling for this person, and basically she's getting catfished. We also have this guy named Jono. He is a freelance journalist, and he is constantly trying to get to that crime before anybody else, and he wants that story so he can grow as a freelance journalist. And he just makes all kinds of, like, he starts all kinds of stuff. He gets in the way a lot. And then lastly we TK is a homeless guy, and when this body shows up, it ruins his home. Like, he is living on the streets, and when this body shows up, a lot of cops are around. He doesn't like cops, obviously, because he's homeless, and he just wants to figure out what is going on in this, or what's going on. Why did somebody do this? This book is written in 3rd person, and you get to read about all those characters. So it starts out on November 9th, and it ends on November 19th, so it is over a couple of weeks. This book is very gruesome. It's very detailed, and Lauren Bukes does not stray away from all the little gory details. She does not stray away from why people are the way they are. She writes characters that are terrible human beings, and you don't like them, but in some ways you kind of feel for them too, which is weird. But it's one of those books that's going to keep you up all night reading it, and it's one of those books that has like super short chapters, so it's really quick to get through. But it is so good. It's just so good. If you like a good thriller detective story, pick this up. If you're not afraid of the gore, and you're not afraid of reading about terrible human beings. This is a great book. Great book. Awesome. The book that started it all for me in the thrillers is Beat the Reaper, and this is by Josh Bazell. I found this book in a 70% off bin a long time ago, and this is one of the ones that's been on my bookshelf for a long time. It made me really start reading them. This is a book about Peter Brown, and he is a doctor. He is in his residency at one of the worst hospitals in the city. He also has the worst hours. His patients, even though he takes care of them, he doesn't really like them. Peter Brown doesn't like a lot of people. We also have this guy named Bear Claw that was in the mob, and he is very close with somebody in the witness protection program, and he did something in the past to where he had to get put in the witness protection program. But we find out too that Peter Brown and Bear Claw are related in some way. And one night Peter Brown gets this one patient that he does not like, and it's from his patient's from his past, and he really just wants to murder him. He really wants to kill him, but he can't because he's a doctor and he has sworn to take care of his patients. So when Peter Brown's new patient shows up, he realizes that he only has a little bit of time to figure out how he's going to take care of his patient, how he's going to take care of himself, how he's going to take care of the people that are around him that he has formed relationships with. And it is just super fast-paced. It's really gripping, and there is a lot of medical terminology in here, which I had to go look up. So I did learn some stuff from it as well. But it's just one of those books that I started reading, and then I kept reading and kept reading and kept reading, and then after it was over, I wanted more. So if you like a fast-paced thriller, if you like a thriller that's full of action, if you like a thriller that has some mystery behind it, if you like a thriller that's about doctors or that has medical terminology in it, and that's just like, I don't know how to explain it. This book is really just, it's really hard to explain, but if you like I said, if you like fast-paced novels, if you like books that have a lot of action, if you like books that have some sort of like a mystery aspect to them, you need to pick this book up because it's really good, and I loved it. This is one of the ones that if I'm ever in a book slump, I read it over and over. I've read this book like 5 times, and I learned something new each time I read it. Next book is called The Mad Woman Upstairs, and this is by Catherine Lowell. I freaking love this book. If you are a fan of the Bronte sisters, you really need to pick this book up because this is a book about a girl named Samantha Whipple, and she is a distant ancestor of the Bronte sisters. And that's why I picked this book up, because I love the Bronte sisters and they're some of my favorite classic authors. It is based on a girl named Samantha Whipple who finds out that she is distant ancestors of the Bronte sisters after her father dies. She realizes she has inherited a house that is supposedly the Bronte sisters' old house where they wrote all of their novels. She also gets accepted into Oxford University, and while she is there at Oxford University, her and one of her professors, he's just really weird. He's a really weird person, but he knew her father. He knew Samantha's father. So he helps her out to try to figure out the mystery behind all of these journals that she also inherited too. So she inherits old journals of the Bronte sisters. She inherits old journals from her father. She inherits the Bronte sisters' house as well, it's been in the family for a long time. And then her professor comes in and helps her along with this. But this book is full of mystery. It's full of humor. It is a thriller, but it's one of those like quirky thrillers that kind of like throws you off. It also kind of has a paranormal aspect to it as well. But this is such a good book. If you like quirky thrillers, if you like thrillers that have a lot of mystery, if you like a character that's just really awkward and kind of out there and weird, you will love this book. The next book I have is The Woman in the Dark, and this is by Vanessa Savage. This is a psychological thriller, so it is very dark, and it has a character that is not all the way reliable. Character Sarah supposedly tried to kill herself by taking sleeping pills. I still really enjoyed this book, even though that was one of the things that kind of like, at first I was like, no, because I really don't like reading about that kind of stuff. But after she supposedly tries to commit suicide, her husband Patrick and her 2 daughters end up moving to a place where Patrick grew up, and this house that they're moving to is called the murder house. And even though Sarah doesn't want to move there, she still wants to save her marriage, so she agrees to move there. And the town is just really weird. It's by the sea. It's very ominous. It's very dark. The whole setting of the house is one of those that, like, if you ever watch a movie about a haunted house, that's what this house looks like to me. It's an old Victorian house, and it hasn't been lived in for years because people don't want to live there because it's called the murder house. But there is a mystery behind the house, and when she moves there, Sarah thinks that she's starting to hallucinate a lot of things that happen in the house, and Patrick starts acting really weird, her daughters start acting really weird, and things just start getting very odd. And Sarah finally realizes that she's not as crazy as everybody says that she is. But Patrick has a very dark past, and this book is just centered around a marriage that is supposed to be a great marriage, and that Patrick is supposed to be a very loving and caring husband, but Sarah quickly finds out that her husband is not who he says that he is. So if you like a psychological thriller that is that's really dark and it's really, really creepy and about a dysfunctional marriage, there you go. This is a really, really good book. You should pick it up. The next book I have for you is Hexed by Thomas Oldhuvold, and this is about a town called Black Springs. And in this town there is a 17th-century-year-old witch who haunts this town basically, and she has her mouth sewn shut, she has her eyes sewn shut, because if she sees somebody, she can hex you and she can make you go crazy and she can kill you. If she can speak to you, she can do the same. So somebody decided to sew her mouth shut and her eyes shut, but she still walks around, and even in the description it says that she can get into people's houses, and she stands over your bed and she just watches you for however long she wants to, and then she'll just wander off. But the older people of this town have set up a high-tech surveillance system, and they watch her walk around, and they warn people about which house that she's in. And at the very beginning of the story, we are following this guy named Steve Grant and his family, and when he comes back from the grocery store, Grandma, who they call the witch, is just standing there in their living room, and they just eat dinner and carry on with their lives like nothing is wrong. But the kids of this town, or the teenagers of this town, are tired of them being quarantined for the rest of the world, because this town is completely quarantined off. You can come in, but you can't leave. So once you're in this town, you don't go anywhere. And the kids of this town are tired of this. They want to go out, and they want to be able to go to college. They want to explore the world. They don't want to be stuck in this town. When people try to leave, really, really, really bad things happen to them. So the older people have just been like, no, if you're here, you stay, you don't leave. So the kids decide that they are going to make this town go viral, and they catch up with the witch and they do something to her, and then things just start going crazy. Literally, people start going crazy and bad things just start happening, and it's an adventure. So if you like a book that is super creepy and that has a curse to it, and that's also very suspenseful, and you just like a lot of craziness, and yeah, then you will devour this book. It is very, very fast paced. It is creepy. It is one of those books that makes you think after you read it, and you probably are going to be really, really creeped out after you read it, but I loved it. It was my complete jam. So if you are interested, I would pick this up. But that is the end of my top 5 thriller recommendations for you. I tried to put in some books that were a little bit different, even though they are thrillers. I tried to throw in some paranormal. I tried to throw in some detective stories, some medical stories, some stories that have curses and paranormal aspects to them. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. If you have a thriller that you would like for me to read or that you recommend to me, please make sure that you put it in the comments below. Like this video, and I will see you on the next one.